Okay, class. So we're on the do now, and we have two questions to look at. And our first question tells us that the value of arc HJK is 20x minus 4. And here it is in green. And I also have an inscribed angle here, which is 9x plus 9. And I'm denoting that here by the blue angle here. And they want us to find the value of x. Well, we know that there's a relationship between an arc and an inscribed angle. And in your mind, you should probably say to yourself, yeah, I said the inscribed angle is half the size of the arc. So what I did here was I took my two equations and I wrote them down. Here's my arc and here's my inscribed angle. Okay? And I know that the arc is twice as big as the inscribed angle. So what I would recommend doing here in this situation is just pick a number. And you can see here that I picked 40. You could pick any number. You could pick 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, any number you want. I decided to pick 40 here so that I can have some perspective onto what my equations should be. Okay? So let's say that my arc is 40 degrees. If my arc is 40 degrees, then what does my inscribed angle have to be then? If you guess 20, you guess correctly. Okay? If my arc is 40, then my inscribed angle is going to be half of that is 20 degrees. Now you might be saying, okay, well, why did you bother writing those two numbers down there? Because now I can see it. I can see that my arc is being double or twice as much as my inscribed angle. Well, I do that because I know I'm going to have to do something with these two equations, and it's going to involve setting them equal to each other. But as you can see here, 40 is not equal to 20. So what I did here is, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set my equations equal to each other. But they're not equal yet. In order for my 20 to be equal to 40, I must multiply my 20 by what? By 2. So what I did here is I set my equation equal to each other, and I multiplied it by 2 so that my inscribed angle matches my arc. You see what I did there? Because I know the arc is twice as big as the inscribed angle. So these two equations are not going to be equal until I multiply this equation by 2. Once I do that, well, now I have to distribute my 2. 2 times 9x and 2 times 9. When I do that, my equation comes down. 2 times 9x is 18x. 2 times 9 is 18. And now I have an algebraic equation, which is pretty easy for us to solve. I'm going to add 4 to both sides. The 20x is going to come down. This is going to cancel out. My 18x comes down, and 18 plus 4 is 22. Now I'm going to proceed, and I'm going to subtract both sides. Subtract 18 from both sides. 20x minus 18x is 2x. This cancels out, and the 22 comes down. And now all that's left for me to do is to divide both sides by 2, and x comes out to be 11. And of course, if I wanted to check my answer, all I would have to do is plug the 11 into this equation here, and plug the 11 into this equation there, and you would see that my arc is twice as big as my inscribed angle. The hardest part of this question, don't forget, was setting the equations equal to each other and realizing that the inscribed angle is half of the arc. So in order to make them equal, I have to multiply the inscribed angle by 2. Let's take a look at the next question. The next question here, I have two arcs, and I have an angle on the outside. And by now, I should know what the relationship is between these arcs and this angle out here. I know that if I subtract this arc and then divide by 2, I will get the measure of this angle out here. Well, there are a couple of traps in this question. The first trap is, notice that the 10 is outside the parentheses here, which means that we're going to have to distribute that 10. Okay? Eventually we're going to have to distribute that 10. So let's take a look here and see how I set it up. Well, I took my first arc, which is out here, minus the second arc, which is there, and then when I divide it by 2, it should give me 5x minus 4, the angle that they gave me there. So all I'm doing is just setting it up. This arc minus this arc divided by 2 should give me the angle that's out here. Well, remember we said we have to distribute this 10, right? So, well, I'm going to have 10 times x and 10 times 4. And what that's going to give me is an equation that looks like this. Well, I have my arrows, I'm going to distribute, and that's going to give me this. 10 times x is 40. 10 times x is 10x. 10 times 4 is 40. And it's minus this other arc divided by 2 is equal to 5x minus 4. And I have it all set up here. Well, there's another little trap that we need to watch out for. And it's this minus sign right here. Notice how this minus sign is in front of my equation here. That means that there's like a -1 there that I have to distribute to everything inside the parentheses. So this positive 9x is going to become a negative 9x, and this positive 3 is also going to become a negative 3 because I have a negative sign to distribute to this parentheses here. And what my equation is going to look like is going to be like this. The 10x plus 40 comes down. The 9x becomes negative 9x. The 3 becomes negative 3, still divided by 2, all over 5x minus 4. Well, now that I've simplified the top of this equation here, I can start combining like terms. For example, I have 10x minus 9x. That should give me 1x. And I have positive 40 minus 3. That should give me positive 37. And if you look here, that's exactly what I get. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. Here we go. So I'm going from the bottom here, I'm going up here. So 10x minus 9x is 1x. And positive 40 minus 3 is positive 37. And my equation is still divided by 2. And it's equal to 5x minus 4. Well, now we have to get rid of this 2 in the denominator. And if you remember, we said that the way that we do that is by distributing the 2 across the equal sign. So I'm going to multiply 2 times 5x, and I'm also going to multiply 2 times negative 4. Don't forget that you have to distribute to both of these. The biggest mistake that students would make, what do you think it is? If you guess that they distribute to the first one and they forget to distribute to the second one, you're correct. So after I distribute my equation, here's what it's going to look like. 1x plus 37 is equal to 10x minus 8. And now I have a regular algebraic equation that I can just subtract 1x from both sides. The 37 comes down. 10x minus 1x is 9x. The negative 8 comes down. Now I can add 8 to both sides. 37 plus 8 is 45. The 9x comes down. And obviously, I'm going to divide both sides by 9. And x is going to be equal to 5. And if you wanted to check your answer, all you have to do is plug in 5 into the two arcs and the angle, and you would see that the two arcs subtracted from each other divided by 2 is going to give you the angle on the outside. The tricks, again, to watch out for in this problem were 1, that you have to distribute, 2, that you have a negative sign outside the parentheses, so you know you have to distribute that negative sign to everything inside the parentheses, and 3, that you have a 2 for the denominator that you have to distribute to both factors on the other side of the equal sign.